welcome to another edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. Rich Baxter joins me, and Rich, we're essentially about 5 days in on his April Fool's Day. No, it's not. We're not playing a prank. It is us. We're doing a show, and actually we're doing a video show on Zoom. So trying out something different, going to get more involved back into the video. Rich, I guess we should really tell them that because people don't know about that. But we're about 5 days into what should have been the season.
Yes, indeed. As you said, April 1st already. And we'd be well underway. Of course, the COVID-19 crisis continues to grip the country. So our hearts go out to anybody affected by that. And there's plenty of people now that it turned the first of the month. This is the first start of the month since this has all started, Gary. So it's a new dimension to this problem.
And this thing is crazy. I'm sitting here in the middle of the hot spot, the epicenter, New York City. Oh, I'm on Long Island, but it's rolling this way, and it's a little scary. I gotta admit, I'm at the age where I'm in the range of worriness, and I'm staying in the house as much as possible, not going anywhere. Go outside. They say you can go outside, thank goodness, and not have to stay in the house, But venturing out to places, I had to go to a store yesterday, and I got to tell you, Rich, it was a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah. Especially if you haven't been out in a few days, it's sort of like you wander around the aisles and, you come in contact with people again, quote unquote. And, you want to respect the space while at the same time you came to the store to get your food or whatnot. And I remember there was a gentleman yesterday around the Italian bread loaves, and I was waiting for him. I'm like, I can understand if there's not a crisis going on, you want to peruse all the breads, but come on, just grab a loaf and go.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, I want to get the heck out of there. Luckily, though, what I did was that I brought spray with me and everything, and then so I got the stuff to the car and I sprayed everything. And I got to tell you, I felt a little awkward about that as well, only because of the fact that I said to my wife, I said, well, if the virus don't kill us, the sanitizer may kill us, getting into your lungs and stuff. But I did it, and we'll have to see. And last night I happened to watch the MLB Network and catch the Game 7 of the 1997 World Series between the Marlins and the Indians. The Marlins winning that I think it was the 11th inning or the 12th inning. That was pretty interesting to watch a little bit of baseball. But, Rich, they said they could begin in empty stadiums. And now they're talking July 1st or something. But empty stadiums, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think probably that seems the way it's going to go. Unless, of course, we've been hearing that they're rushing cures, so to speak, and I use that in quotes, for this virus. I remember many years ago when we had one of these, not quite to this level. Once that virus cure was found, it seemed like everything folded in, and you could mail it away, and that was the end of the pandemic or epidemic at the time. It wasn't a pandemic, but it's just going to take that for somebody to say, yeah, we finally got a grip on this thing. We have a vaccine that works. Everything will fold into place, but we're keeping our fingers crossed that happens soon. As you said, a lot of people suffering, a lot of these stories, unless you're digging for them. I have a friend I visited yesterday. It doesn't have a computer, doesn't go on the internet, has his regular television at home, but they're not telling you the whole gory details of, especially like you said, New York City. It's an epicenter. It's a war zone. There's just no other way to describe it. Other big cities in North Jersey, the same way. Out west, the same way. This story is a horrible story, and it's one that uh, if you look down deep into it, it's terrible. I feel guilty even thinking about baseball um, today. I just it's wearing on me a little bit of this because I've been reading into it a lot more, and it's just attacking people young and old and sick and not sick, especially the sick. But yeah, it's terrible. We need something to bring us back to reality, um, and it's been bad.
And yeah, I know what you're saying, and I agree with you, but I think it's good that we do talk about other stuff. Otherwise, I think you can really go off your rocker, concentrating on this stuff. I know the last couple of days I've been feeling a little. I guess the word would be depressed, and it's not that I look. I'm fortunate. I happen to be retired now, and it's not that I don't have the funds to go running all over the place, and we didn't. And in a way, I'm not doing anything extraordinarily more than what I did before. We spent a lot of time at home, but you had to. I think it's a psychological thing when you knew I can go to the store, and we would go shopping. You need stuff, so you'd run out to the stores, and it would be a day out, and then at my age, you need a day to recover or two, being out to the stores. But the point is, now not being able to know you shouldn't be out, or you're afraid to go out, it kind of puts a depressing tone on it. And I think we're starting to see that. And I just wonder that, like I said, feeling that feeling of apprehension being a store the other day, whether or not, if baseball started, and even if there's a cure and everything, in the beginning, are people going to flock back to the stadiums when they're allowed to go, or is it going to hurt attendance? I think it's going to hurt attendance in the beginning. I want to say that people are going to be so bottled up they're just going to explode, and there's going to be restaurants lines out the doors, and the movie theaters is going to be lines, and everybody's going to be wanting to shop and spend money. But then I'm thinking, I'm not so sure. People, you get used to this 6 feet distance, and you get used to not being around other people and things like that. Do you think that's going to have a part when they come back?
I think it will for a short time. We went through something like this before, if you remember, and it's been a while ago, and you can vaguely remember different things that have happened around that time.
Mm-hmm.
The SARS, the MERS virus, when that started, although it never reached to the level of this, it was a little bit the same way. You sort of didn't want to go close to people, but after a while, you do lose that feeling, I believe. So it might be for a short time, hopefully, and we'll see things can go back to normal.
Yeah, and Major League Baseball and the Players Association came to an agreement about the draft, and they're going to do 5 rounds. I think that's still up in the air. It hasn't been finalized, but they've come to an agreement. But I don't know, is 5 rounds going to be enough? Are they going to be able to pack all of these teams? I mean, there's 162 minor league teams from the low A to the triple A, and you're going to have approval from all of those administrations, all of those cities and towns, to have groups coming together, or just for them to play. I don't know. I think it's just going to wreak so much havoc. I don't know anything about the minor leagues. What the heck is going to go on when they come back?
Yeah, don't know how they're going to do it. It's not going to be like the old days where they announce their name and they're going to walk up to the stage, I'm sure. Um, Pretty sure anyway.
Yeah.
They don't want to bring undue risk to them. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And I'm sure for the short term, it won't be an issue for baseball to keep the minor leaguers, especially a lot of those. Unfortunately, a lot of those minor leaguers, for a certain part of them, probably beyond them 5 rounds, 10 rounds, that sort of thing, may never make the majors. It's
Right.
just a math thing that, you know, you're going to play baseball, you're going to play professional baseball, but it's going to be minor leagues. I don't think we're going to see too much of a drastic change with baseball with just the 5 round draft, but it's something that they have to do. They have to, you know, get the next year group of players in, and you know, the business of baseball carries on.
Yeah, and I think that what you said is true. And also what's going to happen probably is a lot of guys that might have gotten cut from an organization and let go, maybe kept an extra year to fill out the teams, and because the draft is not going to be as deep as it usually is. They usually have 40 rounds. Now they're going to cut it to 5. It's like over 1,000 players that are not going to be involved in anything. But it's all going to play out, and I guess we're going to see what happens with it all. And they're talking about all kinds of things. They're talking about possibly going into November or even December, playing on a neutral site. They granted a year of the players going to get credit for a year no matter what. I don't know. I got a bit of a problem with that because it's so crazy that I don't know how they're going to do it. I'll give you an example. I'm going to use the Mets as an example here. Noah Syndergaard now becomes a free agent in 2021. He's going to miss this year. He just had Tommy John surgery. He's going to miss most of next year. He's going to get credit for both those years, and then he may come back or he may not come back. He could possibly sit out now until he's a free agent. I mean, that's kind of crazy in a way. They signed Waka and Rick Porcello to a 1-year contract. If they cancel the season, they walk without ever playing a game as a New York Met. And you want to take it one step further. How about Mookie Betts? The Dodgers traded a boatload of players to bring him and David Price out there. And if they happen, because there is still a possibility they could cancel the season. I don't think it's going to happen because I do think that they really want to play. But they could cancel the season and Mookie Betts never play and they don't get those players back. So it's kind of a crazy thing. I think that's why they have to play. And they're talking about the double headers and less travel time and everything like that. And it is going to be a crazy thing to see. And but I don't see why they can't play 100 games and start it in July is considered the halfway point, which is usually about 81 games. So you could add 20 games on and play some double headers, and increase the roster to protect some of the players.
Yeah, I would think they should be able to get possibly not looking ahead too far into the future, but maybe an 82 game season or 100 game season in, because they're going to cancel the All-Star game, obviously. They're going to cancel other things and pack this season into a shorter amount of time. So assuming everything clears up quite soon, we just had an event this week with Toronto saying they're banning any get-togethers of more than a few people through mid-June. So that takes the Toronto Blue Jays out of it. And other areas of the country, like Florida, are doing the same thing. They're saying, nothing till the end of June. So that pushes everything back too. As far as spring training, things are going to have to, as you said, get very interesting as time goes on.
Yeah, and I think that's why that maybe they're talking about it July the 1st now, opening day. Kind of would make sense, I guess, in a way, because they could use July 4th as a really slam bang big thing like it used to be when we were kids. Because it'd be like the week of the season and everything. It's gonna be weird and it's gonna be tough, but I don't see why they can't get it in there.
Yeah, and I printed out the agreement that was made on Friday, March 27th. Now, a couple of days ago, as a part of an agreement between the players and the MLB. The 2020 season will not start until each of the following conditions are met. Number one, there are no bans of mass gatherings that would limit the ability to play in front of fans. However, the commissioner could still consider the, quote, use of safe, appropriate, substitute neutral sites where economically feasible. Number two, it says there are no travel restrictions throughout the United States and Canada. And number three, medical experts determined that there would be no health risks for players, staff, or fans. So there's the $64 question there, the last one. Medical experts determined that there will be no health risks for players, staff, or fans. So also giving the commissioners and unions still chance to revisit an idea of playing in empty stadiums. So worst comes to worst, they seem like they're going to play in empty stadiums if there's medical experts that say there would be no health risks.
And that's going to be tough until it's not going to happen right away. So I don't know, that could open up the cancellation of the entire season then, but
yeah,
we'll just have to wait it out and see what happens.
Yeah, I also printed out here for the show a couple different manager questions that were posted over at ESPN.com. Here's one here. The question was posed: what are the common topics in talking with your players? What are their main concerns? Aaron Boone rather says from the Yankees, he's the manager, mostly topical or personal stuff. How are you doing? How's the family? What have you been up to? Those are most of our questions. We're getting a lot of updates from the Players Association. Their update is at as much as I am. Most of our guys certainly understand that the great unknown right now is when stuff's going to start up. So that was from Booney there with the Yankees. Rojas for the Mets says many players are experiencing problems with the facilities where they train, which are no longer open. But from the beginning, we were very diligent, led by GM Brodie Van Wagenen and our performance group. Each player has a specific workout plan. If they have weights available, they have found a workout plan with weights or without for any situation that they find themselves in. So players are being little, they're substituting, so to speak. I saw a picture of Bryce Harper pulling 5 big barbells on some sort of sleigh down the middle of the street. So different players are getting ready in their own way. But, yeah, you can imagine a professional athlete. They have to stay in tip-top shape, but there's no gyms open. So these guys that have an apartment and condominium necessarily didn't need a gym because they always had access to one. Now all of a sudden don't have it.
Well, there was a slight video. I think it was on Twitter or one of the sites, and it was Joey Gallo of the Rangers, and it looked like he was in. I guess it's his apartment, but it looks like he was in the, like in the 52nd floor or something with all windows, and he had a net set up, and he was he was hitting off a tee. And he said, "My neighbors are going to kill me eventually, but you have to do what you got to do." Like you said, saw an interview with Todd Frazier, also of the Rangers now, formerly of the Mets, and he said him and his brother and him find they've got a little location that they know it doesn't get crowded at all, and his brother will throw to him. They're 6 feet apart, of course. They're 60 feet 6 inches apart. But and then if they see anybody, they just pack up and run like banshees, he said. But this is, they got to do some stuff to try to stay in shape. I mean, they were well along in spring training, and then to have this happen really sets you back.
Yeah, some of the pros are giving their tips out on social media. Curtis Granderson, veteran of 16 seasons, was showing some stuff on a YouTube channel that he has. Ryan Dempster, of course, MLB Network analyst, he was showing people how to pitch, how to grip the ball on certain pitches from a home video that that he shot in his own bedroom, believe it or not. So players are getting inventive on how they share the game with some fans that are eagerly awaiting some more information. And even Larry Boa got in the action, showed some indoor defensive drills that you can do,
Oh,
at home. So interesting improvisation of use of social media there.
yeah, and it keeps him in touch with the fans, I guess, and shows the human side to them, and they want to play too. I mean, they're biting at the bit, and they want to get going as well. So we'll just like everybody else, we got to sit it out and wait and see what happens. So what else do you have that you were working on this week?
Well, on my own blog, of course, over at Fighting Phillies, I was doing a lot of research last week on uniforms. I've been delving into different uniform changes that the Phillies have had over the years, and preparing an article for that. But other than that, just reading about the game, trying to stay busy, reading other writers in the press and outside of the press, other bloggers just like us. We both have our own blogs going on, and you had some great guests in the past couple weeks.
I was pretty fortunate. Yeah, I had on Mets Musings, we had John Matlack on last week. He was the 1972 Rookie of the Year and pitcher for the Mets in 71, 72, and I think to 77. And he pitched in Game 7 of the 73 World Series. Unfortunately, he lost that game, but yeah, he was an interesting guest. And then I've had an author on of a new book, Brian Wright, that just came out. And so trying to get more guests. I'm going to have former Met backup catcher Barry Lyons. He's going to be on next week's show, and this week's show, which is yet to be recorded, looks like we're going to do a little bit of a roundtable and discuss with the usual suspects that I have on. For that, we're going to talk much like this. What do we suspect? We'll probably talk about the Brian Wright book. But, yeah, trying to get some guys on and keep busy. Got a bunch of emails out there for players and writers and stuff to come. And maybe we'll get a couple and grab them over for this show.
Yeah, some other MLB news. The Fanatics fan shop has switched over. last week, I believe, that one of the owners of that company got the idea to start making the masks. He started making like Yankee pinstripe, red pinstripe, which would encompass either the Phillies, the Reds, something like that. So they're making not a fashion statement, but trying to partake and participate in giving some of the healthcare workers much needed hospital gowns and masks for themselves. So they switched over production to that. Now it's a interesting way of helping out the country, and it just happens to have a baseball twist on it.
Sure, and like you said, a lot of companies doing that now, trying to change over to help out, and anything helps at this point. We're in dire need of supplies, and anything they can do. But that was fascinating, that the hospital gown and pinstripes
Yeah.
and the masks and stuff. So lots of people trying to adapt their businesses to help out in this, and that's a really good thing.
Yeah, New Balance shoes. I just read a tweet Urban Santana retweeted from a couple days ago. They were making shoes yesterday. It said now they're making masks today. So they're making masks. Other big companies are getting in on the big push to help out. So it's amazing that we went from being okay to a situation where we got to eventually, and where we are currently in the country with this. Really took us back on our feet, and I hope we learned something from that even.
Yeah, it happened so quick, and like you said, I really don't know what else to add, and we're going to try to give you as much news here that we possibly can over the next few weeks until we get further news. We'll get the sport back, and if not, we'll have to figure out something else, Rich. Maybe we can sing or do do magic tricks or something if there's no season.
Entertain on our newly found Zoom technologies here, which, by the way, I was talking with Gary before the show. I tried that on a public Zoom, so to speak, and found out that didn't work out too well, trying to teach other people how to mix a podcast. I had the whole Adobe Audition screen up, and I launched into my little essay on how to mix it, and within a minute or two I was overrun with tyrants in my room, so to speak. Then I did some some reading on it. They call it Zoom bombing. So apparently the teenagers have nothing better to do at home than to jump on these Zoom broadcasts and interrupt them. But whatever floats your boat, I guess.
Yeah, so now that'll teach you. You got to record it and then just release it on YouTube or something.
That's it. And as you said, Gary, we're trying our best. Each local station for each team is playing their own favorite teams, games, like Pittsburgh area, Baltimore, New York, of course. The Phillies have been airing things on their local sports channel. So if nothing else, it's a good opportunity for fans that may not have seen certain games to check it out. I know Roy Halladay's game, his perfect game, was played a couple nights ago, and they're going to replay them as well. And so I'm sure out in New York they've been doing the same.
Yeah, they played Johan Santana's no hitter, and a couple of the stations have played the 86 games from the 86 World Series and the Championship Series. So trying to keep us, and of course MLB has been playing different games, and they have a show, the 20 greatest games, and they play and they interview people from that game. And so there's there's some baseball on there if you want to watch. I actually found myself last night, couldn't sleep, so I was watching wrestling at 2 o'clock in the morning. FS1 had the Royal Rumble on from January, so it was fairly new and it was a big event. But I get into a little bit. It was just some kind of sport you wanted to see, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. You have to keep your mind occupied, keep busy. At the same time, try to remind yourself to stay safe with the washing of the hands, as they keep saying, the sanitizing. Um, Mask, if you have them. I know a lot of the rounds making their way in the Twitter world now is we probably should have been wearing masks, even though, that's been a hotbed of controversy with
Yeah.
certain people to
Mm-hmm.
only wear them if you're sick. No, it should have been both ways, actually, as we're
Right.
learning, some of these countries that have had a good experience with it, but how many people stock the masks? Now you can't find them.
You can't find them, right? People making their own out of paper towels, which was saw a woman make one that was pretty interesting. But excuse me, but yeah, I mean, who knew? And we'll just have to see. But and for those that are watching this eventually on YouTube, we are not we are not. I know we look like we're not 6 feet apart, but we are miles apart. And we did not coordinate our wardrobe.
No, we didn't. Blue.
It just happened to work out that way today. But we are miles apart. And through the wonder of technology, we look like we're right on top of one another, but nowhere near, unfortunately, or fortunately in this case. But, we just got to try to ride it out. And like you said, just wash your hands and keep up with all of that kind of stuff. And this too will pass.
Yes, indeed. We got to keep the faith, and as Gary usually closes his Mets podcast with, stay optimistic, because that's really what we need in this tragedy. I'm going to call it. There's no other word for it, and just wish everyone well.
Yeah, and if I hope you'll subscribe to the show and check us out. And we're going to try to do the best we can to gather whatever stories that may come across the wires, as they used to say, and keep you informed about what's going on in baseball. Or maybe Rich and I will just talk about the virus or whatever. But drop us an email if you'd like to be a part of the show, and if you'd like to help out the show so we can do things like this Zoom more often. We could go longer if we had some money, but we have a Patreon page. Go to patreon.com/baseball talk radio show. Check us out. You can donate at our website, anchor.fm/baseball talk radio show. So lots of ways. Richie, what you want to give the email address?
You can check our show out at our new home for the podcast over at anchor.fm/baseball talk radio show.
Oh, we lost your video, Rich. You muted yourself right at the end. There we go.
I don't know how I could have done that, but I switched over to our Anchor page, and maybe it muted me. But yeah, you can go over to our Anchor page. You can communicate with us there. Also, donate to the show. Subscribe to the podcast from there, from all your different favorite podcast listening areas there, from iTunes to Spotify and everywhere in between. Thank you for the kind words that I had. I know when we last spoke, Gary, I was at on the road, and a lot of people were also on the road down there at spring training when we got sort of stranded down there. We got halfway into it and everything was called, but thanks for all the nice words from the folks that took the time to write.
Yeah, and we're glad to have you back home, and glad to have you on Zoom, and this worked great. I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, that's our newfound friend here in the podcast world. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll be sure to be talking to you real soon next week with the best in the baseball world.